All right. Obviously, we're starting into conference play this week. Got a game on the road against Boise State, and then we consider conference games more important than our non-conference schedule. So it's exciting about getting into conference play and see where we stand right away. Got 8 straight weeks of conference games. Hopefully we can start out playing well at the beginning.
How good is the Mountain West Conference this year? Because, I mean, you look at last year and considering all the great players that came out with the NFL draft, I mean.
Well, I don't know how good the league is. I mean, we're just starting to play each other right now. I think there's a couple of surprise teams. Obviously, Boise is one of the better teams in the league. They always are. And they're a really, really good football team this year. Now, I think Hawaii's surprised people. And I think Utah State has surprised people on how well they're playing right now.
Rocky, how tough is it to play up there of all the venues in the conference?
Well, I think it's the same as playing anywhere. Any time you play on the road, it's hard. The toughest part is that they're really good. That's the toughest part.
What are you pointing towards to beat these guys? What do you have to put together with your guys after this bye week?
Well, I mean, both teams are going to try to do what they do. They're really, really explosive on offense. They have a great quarterback, some outstanding receivers, but they have really good running backs that run the ball hard. I mean, they're averaging over 40 points a game. They're averaging over 500 yards in total offense. I mean, they're an explosive football team. So the best way to have a chance to win is to keep them off the field, and that means on our offense we have to control the ball and get some first downs and all those sort of things. But that's easier said than done because they're pretty good on defense too.
They rotated quarterbacks last year with Rippon, and you guys were seemed pretty effective against him. How are things different for him this year?
I think he's playing much, much better this year than he did last year. And they do put another quarterback in, but very, very seldom. He's playing the whole time. He's the most experienced quarterback in our league, but he's playing at a really high level. He reads coverage as well. He's very accurate with the football, and then he's got receivers that'll go get the ball. But if you put too many guys in coverage, then they can pound you with their running backs. Their running backs are very physical runners that they don't necessarily try to make you miss. They kind of look you up and like contact, and they're a very physical football team too.
Since the
Excluding Juwan, are most of the players who were too banged up to finish the EMU game going to be back for Boise State, or do you know yet?
Well, the guys that did not play in the Eastern Michigan game, other than Noble Hall, who's going to play this week, the rest of them that did not play, Tim Wilson did not play. He'll play this week. The rest of them will not play this week. Plus, we, got a couple other guys hurt in the game that won't play this week.
Since, I guess, the Fiesta Bowl win a long time ago, they've really been, like, I guess, one of the best, non-Power 5 teams. I mean, are they kind of the, I guess, the blueprint of a non-Power 5, consistent, considering, how successful they've been?
They've been very successful for a long time. That's a sign of a lot of good things. They've had, they've got nice facilities. It's a great town. They've had outstanding coaching staffs, and they have an outstanding coaching staff right now. And they recruit good players. That's a formula for everybody having a good program.
And what you guys recruited against them too, because I know a couple San Diego guys have gone up there. I mean, what's the draw of Boise State versus, I guess, San Diego State?
I think it's when you recruit, it's all a matter of personalities matching and what a kid's looking for. I mean, a lot of people ask us why the San Diego State kids don't stay home. Well, I'll give you a personal experience. When I was a kid, and I wasn't highly recruited, don't get me wrong, but I was recruited, and I wanted to get away from home. I didn't want mom and dad right next door when I was in high school getting ready to go to college. Well, there's a lot of kids in San Diego like that too. Guess what?
Are you surprised, you've rebuilt this, are you surprised Boise could go from one AA Big Sky to a top 25 program and then keep it at that level for such an extended period of time?
I'm not surprised because I've been told a lot of times on how they did it. I don't think they moved up. They started out and they didn't move up until they were ready to move up. They didn't move up until they had everything in place to compete at a high level. And they've continued to upgrade facilities and put money into their program and build new facilities and everything. They've kept up in order to stay relative. There's no guesswork involved. I mean, they've done everything right to be a real good program. They have, for a non-Power 5 institution, they have very good resources too, and very good facilities and all those things you recruit to. And then they have the tradition of being really good, and so that helps them continue that way too.
How much does that make a difference when you have, the facilities, you have the football field, their football field is iconic, and, you have the facilities that they have. How much in recruiting, for you guys and kids, does that matter to them? Because I'm sure that they might mention it to you guys.
Oh, I think a lot of things, in recruiting, a lot of things interest players. Some guys go because of the facilities. Some guys go because they're really good and they have a great tradition. I mean, kids go different places for different reasons. There's no one exact formula for recruiting.
You think the Aztecs and Broncos are the two best group of 5 schools in the country?
Well, I don't think we are. I think that Boise State can make a claim to being that this year. They're playing really, really well. If they don't make a couple errors in the kicking game, they'd be undefeated and ranked probably in the top 20 for sure. They've just inched back into the playoffs or into the top 25. And I think they're one of the teams that people are considering to be the non-Power 5 guys that go to the bowl game. I think they are. I don't think we're anywhere close to that right now.
Think you could be?
It all depends on how well you play the rest of the year, whether you are or not. There's some other non-Power 5 teams that are playing really, really well right now. I think there's 4 or 5 teams that you, at this early part of the season, that you would consider in the hunt for that spot. And I think Boise's one of them.
Is Rippon a pretty good rhythm passer? Is that what's made him so good?
I think he's smart. He's very accurate with the football, but I would say he reads coverages better than most of the quarterbacks we play against. He's the best quarterback we've played against to this point. I don't know what's down the road because I don't look down the road. I just look at this week. So I don't know what's down the road, but he's by far the best quarterback we've played against so far this year.
As a coach coming off the bye, how do you get your guys, I guess, refocused on football? Because, obviously last Saturday, a bunch of people probably, watching football or doing something else.
I don't think there's any problem with that. I think they like to play football, and I'm sure they enjoyed their time off, but I'm sure they're ready to play.
When you look at the video, their 3 wide receivers are averaging 16 yards or more per catch. Is that collectively the best? And are they yards after catch, or is it just big play bombs down the field?
It's both. When they catch the ball, they can make you miss. Okay, and they can run by you. They've got a couple guys who can run by you, and if the quarterback has time, he's plenty good enough to throw it down there, and they go and run and catch it. Now, that's the one thing on the bye week. I probably watched 10 or 12 college football games on Saturday. Guess what? That's happening everywhere. That's happening. I saw that in every single game.
You followed road games at Laramie with 60 minutes of play at a lower elevation. Do you think that gives a team, and of course this is the case for Boise State this week, an advantage?
No, I think it does in some sports. I don't think it does in football, especially when you're on TV. And you guys go to the games, how many timeouts do we have, and how long are the timeouts? Depending on which network you're on, you have 4 or 5 media timeouts a quarter. Some of them last as long as 3 minutes long. Plus, you have your own timeouts that you can call. if you're on TV, any kind of altitude there's no issue whatsoever with being tired if you're on TV.
Two things, does that disrupt the flow? And then also, can you speak to the early start, the 12? I mean, you're playing and you have a great starting time that everybody can see San Diego State.
I think that that is concern to us playing that early, since we don't do it very often. But they don't do it very often either. I don't think that's an advantage to either team. I think that's the way it should be. I wish we played every game at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. I wish every one of our games was then. But that's not. So it'll be different for both teams to get up that early and get ready to go in. And I don't think it'll make any difference to either team, but we'll see how it turns out. I mean, they are too. We're used to playing at 7:30 at night. I mean, we're still half asleep at 1:30. I mean, they're taking naps and watching TV. I mean, so it'll be interesting how that works out. But it's nice to play in the afternoon.
How do those TV timeouts, I guess, I don't want to say disrupt the flow of what you're doing, but, you know.
They try hard not to disrupt the flow. So if you have a drive going, they wait until the drive's over or until after a punt or something like that. You'll notice that they'll do it before a kickoff and right after a kickoff. Have you noticed that one? You have a timeout, and then you go kick the ball off, and then you have another timeout. They are going to get their timeouts in no matter what, okay? Because officials will come over to you and say, hey, they only got 4 last, so they're going to get an extra one this quarter. Does it disrupt the flow of the game? They try real hard not to disrupt the flow of the game when action is going. But the idea that you can get tired out nowadays, if you're on TV, there's no reason you get tired out.
Boise State, San State have only met 5 times, but it seems like a pretty spirited get-together. So would you consider it already a rivalry, and why is that?
Well, I think you have to play a school many, many, many times to have a true rivalry. I think whenever you get teams together that have played well in the past and have won conference championships, I think that adds a little flavor to the game. I think it adds a little excitement to the game.
Would you decide for backup running back behind Jasmine?
Have not. You'll know when I know.
A few years back, you talked about the blue field not having a mystique. Was that to kind of poke the bear, or what was behind that? Because their fans still talk about that every time this game comes up.
Well, I don't think it has. I don't think it changes because I've seen a lot of teams play on that field, and they have a great home record, by the way. Well, that's for 2 reasons. They're at home, and they have a great fan base, and they're a very good football team. That's why they win at home. It has nothing to do with the field. The field, if you ask players, if they've never been there before, they go out there and it's a little weird during warm-ups, but once the game starts, they don't even notice the color. I mean, I've had hundreds of players tell me that. So the players have convinced me that after warm-ups, if you've never been there before, after warm-ups, it's a football game. You don't even know what surface you're playing on. Some play on grass, some play on turf. So the reason they have such great home record is because they have a great fan base. They're playing at home in front of a great fan base, and they're really, really good. It's amazing how that works to winning home football games.
But 5 years ago, do you think there was more perception? What prompted saying that there's no mistake?
No, I think that was my mistake. I thought there was. And because I never played on it, But I've had a lot of players tell me, lots of players over the years, that once the game starts, they don't even notice the color of the field.
When you talk about the fan base, and I mean, there's a difference between the Cred and that place. That place is going to be full, and the Cred's not. I mean, obviously, it makes a difference. I mean, can you speak to the difference of having a full, packed crowd cheering for just one team?
I think whenever you have a good crowd, and we've had great crowds, For this season so far, and last year we had great crowds. In fact, I think we led the league in attendance. Now, obviously, we're playing in a gigantic stadium, so it doesn't look as big as when you're playing in a smaller stadium and you fill it. Whenever you have a home crowd that adds energy and gives you a moral support when things aren't going right, I think it gives the home team a huge advantage. I think our crowd has given us a big advantage this year so far at home. I mean, we've played some really tight games, and guess what? There was a bunch of people there, and the student body was there, and I think that energy helped us win those tight games. And I think that playing up there, they have another advantage because they'll have a great fan base, and it'll be a full house, and they'll be loud and supportive of their team. That makes it harder to win.
Rocky, is Christian doing anything football related right now?
He is. He's throwing passes in individual drills, in scout teamwork. He's playing quarterback a little bit on our offense against the scout team. Any stuff where it's ones against ones, twos against twos, he's not doing any of that yet. But he's actually jogging around. He's actually throwing the ball.
Big knee brace?
He's got a knee brace on. They're not big anymore. They're pretty light and flexible nowadays.
You mentioned a couple other guys that were injured against Eastern Michigan. Who are those?
Isaac Lassard's not going to play this week. Hopefully he'll be back. He'll get checked out again next week. Hopefully he'll be back. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask for help on anybody else. Is there anybody else, Mike? Do you know? I don't think so. I don't think so.
A neck or what is?
Yeah, it's his neck.
How do you? I mean, that's an important position for you guys. How do you feel going to this game without your starter?
Well, I feel that we're getting younger by the day. Every time we lose a starter or a veteran player, we're playing younger guys. There's nothing you can do about it. You hope they play well.
Your three guys behind the ball will all be backups.
The three what?
Three guys behind the ball will all be backups on.
That's true.
Anything else for Coach?
As you try to grow your secondary, what do you think they are as they get ready to face this guy with all the bullets in the gun?
We're trying to get better every day in practice. And hopefully game experience makes them better. Every time they play, they get better. They're better now than they were 4 weeks ago. They're better now than they were last week. I mean, they're getting better as it goes. But I'm going to say it again. I don't think we're having any more troubles in the secondary than most people are. Than probably 90% of the college football teams in the country. And the 10% that are not having trouble in the secondary, they have a dominant defensive front that puts unbelievable pressure on the quarterback. Well, most people don't have a dominant defensive front. We don't. We've got a pretty good defensive front, but we don't have a dominant defensive front. So our DBs are suffering the same problems that every other secondary in the country. I mean, I can remember the day where it was in the media for 10 to 15 days if someone threw for 300 yards. Now, if you don't throw for 300 yards, something's wrong with you.
What worries you most about what Boise does offensively?
I think the number of formations they give you out of the different personnel groups. It doesn't matter what personnel group they have in there. They can get into a running formation. They can get into a passing formation. They can get into a formation with nobody but the quarterback in the backfield. They can get into a formation with 2 or 3 seemingly backs in the backfield. No matter what personnel group they have in, they give you an unbelievable number of formations.
Chase has played substantially the last couple of games, but he got a different role coming out from the get-go as a starter. Do you see that change?
I don't think that's an issue. He's played enough in the last 2 games that shouldn't be an issue. The issue is when Coach Horton decides which running back goes in to give him a break. That's when I hope we don't see an issue.
Do you think these contact restriction penalties are serving their purpose in reducing injuries, or you think injuries have been just as frequent as they have in past years?
Well, I think people are learning how to play with the new rules, and I think they'll help prevent some injuries and prevent the severity. I think what they're trying to do will work. I mean, I don't know to what degree it'll work, but it'll work in a positive direction.
With backups at quarterback, running back, and fullback, have like a couple of those guys been in the lineup enough that you feel like things will be pretty comfortable, or how does that trio work together?
I think it's going to be fine. I think they're going to be okay. I mean, you never know until you get out there and play. I mean, there's a reason when a team loses starting quarterback or starting running back or a starting wide receiver in the NFL, it's such a big deal. There's a reason for that, and I would say it's the same in college. There's a reason for real concern when you don't have your starters playing in very key roles. I think there's some legitimate concern. I have to apologize for something too, by the way. I checked on the quarterback from Clemson. I thought that was only a 4-game rule, was only a freshman rule. It's not.
Really? That's what
Yeah, I misread the rule or was told something. It was my fault because I thought it was only for the freshmen. It's not.
I told Paul Rudy that. He messed it up too, so.
Yeah,
I blame him, but-
Because when I read about the Clemson guy leaving, I went up and asked, and I was wrong. So I want to apologize for saying it was only freshmen.
We're all learning every day.
Hey, Rocky, getting back to Christian, has his time frame as to when he can return and play, has that changed at all?
If it has, I haven't been told that, and I think he's wanting to play sooner, and I think that he's doing some stuff out there that maybe they didn't expect him to do this early, but no one has told me that he's going to play earlier than they originally told me.